Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Heng Sure, and this is Tea and Dharma, and this may be the one and only 2018 Tea and Dharma evening. Gosh, we used to do them once a month, but this year, with the travels and all, it didn't happen. As I stepped in, Winnie came to my mind, and one of the reasons why we stopped was it wasn't the time. But Winnie's presence is such a vibrant, joyful energy that's still very much here. So, yeah. So, let me say a little bit about why a monk is playing a guitar here, and some of you are brand new to Tea and Dharma at Teance, and let me say a word about it. This began back at Celadon over on Solano Street years and years and years ago. When was that, Yadola? Celadon was 2002, and we began. So we've got some legs. This is a gathering with lots of history. And the idea was that people, when they hear about a monastery, sometimes they're allergic to monasteries, the same way we're allergic to churches. It's kind of, when you go in, you don't know how to behave, and you think people are looking at you, and you're maybe, it's you're going to make a mistake and things like that. So people feel 不自在 in a church or in a monastery, unless, of course, you're a committed Buddhist. So at the same time, there's this genuine spiritual hunger for things that make sense. Everyone has the same kind of questions, which is, what's the right thing to do? What should I do in the situation? And so we put those two things together, and we need to find a space where people can come together and talk about what matters, and in a lighthearted way. So it's not heavy, there's a sense of shared space. So we started gathering at Celadon, and we kept it up here at Teance. And true, I am a Buddhist monk, but I began as a folk singer, and I was encouraged by my teacher, Master Shren Hua, to continue to use my American expedient means to speak Dharma, which included guitars and banjos. So that's how it began. Plus, Yadola and Winnie and Darius were the most generous hosts and opened up their space for us to come together of our own free will to talk about stuff that matters. This is distinctly not a lecture. I'm not here to tell you what's true and what's false, but I'm here to create a space where people can share or simply witness, simply be silent. And there aren't, if you think about it, during the day, how many opportunities do you get to have a second voice on a topic? What are most conversations like? Oh man, I just saw something that really upset me. Oh, no kidding? What was it? Well, let me tell you. Oh, that's interesting. But by the way, are we going to meet for lunch? And the topic goes sideways in the second response. So the benefit of this kind of circle, roundtable format, is we actually float a topic, and the topic's very flexible, very light, and you get to hear second and third responses and a response to the response. And so you get a chance to chew on and digest topics that otherwise either come at you as talking heads on CNN or NPR or Fox, if you watch Fox, or it's just all scattered stuff. You never get a chance to go deeper. So that's kind of how we set it up, and it's, as I say, no more structure than that. Now, usually it's up to me, if I'm the facilitator, to pick a topic. And we've, over the years, I remember after 9/11, we were meeting at 9/11, and we kept the same topic for 3 weeks because it was such a heavy time. But tonight, Yadola removed the burden from me of having to come up with a topic, because he said, Reverend Heng Sure, would you like to come before you go to Australia and talk about emptiness? And we all went, ha, ha, ha. Sure, why not? Emptiness. This is It's a hallmark Buddhist topic, and it's something. I'm what's called an exegete. Exegete is a religious studies, a seminary word for somebody who explains text. 讲经说法的人. So an exegete is somebody who does exegesis, and that means commentary, right? So I'm an exegete, and Master Hua, I sat beside my teacher for 18 years, and Grandmaster here, 20, 30 years before me, sat beside Shifu, and took the things that he said and made sense of them, connected them to the world around us. So I'm an exegete. I've been explaining one sutra in particular, the Huayan Jing, since 1980. I have never talked about emptiness, not once. People say, oh, 你要讲经, 讲心经吧. Let's talk about the Heart Sutra. Why? It's short. What's good about the Heart Sutra? Short. The Heart Sutra is the essence of Prajna Paramita, which is emptiness. Don't explain it. Oh, well, the Diamond Sutra. How about the Diamond Sutra? It's short, right? Same teaching is Kongman. And frankly, I'm not ready. And I don't know if anybody in the audience is truly ready to talk about emptiness. Because why? The Buddha did not talk about emptiness philosophically. It wasn't a proposition, oh, all things are empty. It was from the experience of meditation when your senses empty out, a verb. Emptiness in Buddhism is not a description of the universe, it's a verb, to empty. You kong ren, kong fa, kong wo. You empty the self, you empty dharmas. Now that's tech talk, right? Buddhist tech talk. We'll get there. Okay, so page 2. Are we ready? That's our intro. People know the tune Amazing Grace. We're going to praise the Buddha jewel. Once a year, in the spring, we do something called Yu Fo Jie, bathing the Buddha ceremony. It's called Fo Huan Xi, Fo Dan, Buddha's birthday. And there's a wonderful tune that goes 天上天下无如佛，十方世界亦无比，世间所有我今见，一切无有如佛者. Wonderful praise. We do it once a year and then never again. And it's really a good praise. So I thought, man, we have to translate that and then add a few lines. So, upon the earth, below the sky, the Buddha has no peer. In 10 directions, everywhere, he is beyond compare. Down to the bottom, I've searched throughout the whole wide world, and now I can declare, you'll never find a wiser one than Buddha anywhere. All right? And it's Amazing Grace, so you have no excuse for not singing along. Upon the earth, below, grab a piece of floor, the sky, the Buddha has no peer. In 10 directions everywhere, he is beyond compare. Second verse, here we go. He's gone beyond dualities. He's never born again. With wisdom bright he delivers me. Sounds good. He knows my joy and pain. He walks the noble way. Page 2. With strength and purity, in dark of night and light, He is the wisdom sun. Okay, here's a guitar break. Last verse. I've searched throughout this whole wide world, and now I can declare you'll never find a wiser one than Buddha anywhere. Last two lines. You'll never find a wiser one than Buddha anywhere. There we go. Nice. Sounds good. Okay. Let's do another song while we're at it. I brought, these are tea and Dharma songs. Notice the title here, right? Because we've come often enough that these songs get requested, and it's one of my joys to be able to share Dharma in music. Let's look at, turn over to page 4. Which is what? Page 4 is Guan Yin Bodhisattva's name in English. And anybody who looks carefully is going to say, no, it's not. Which word of that is English? Namo, is that an English word? What about Guan? What about Sure? What about Yin? What about Bodhisattva? None of them. None of it is English. And yet, all of it's English. So we're introducing, because of Master Hua, right? Shifu introduced Guan Yin Bodhisattva very much the way the Holy Blessed Virgin is for Roman Catholics. It's a very feminine, spiritual entity that has tremendous functioning. And Guan Yin, can we say Namo, Guan, Shi, Yin, Bodhisattva. Okay, great. The awakened being, Bodhisattva, who contemplates the sounds of the world, the voices of the world. I've seen Guan Yin's name translated in a dozen different ways. Regarder of the cries of the world, one who hears the sounds, hears the voices. Voice regarder. I've seen all these interesting translations of Guan Yin. Sometimes she's Guan Yin, sometimes she's Guan Shi Yin. In Chinese, we say Guan Shi Yin Pusa. Pusa is Bodhisattva. So the Vietnamese call her Quan Thiem Po Tat, right, Shirley? Quan Thiem Po Tat. Is that good?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't speak Vietnamese. Who speaks Vietnamese? Quan Thiem Po Tat. Okay, Connie, is that accurate?
Yeah.
Quan Thiem Po Tat. Okay. In Japanese, that's my only thing I can say in Vietnamese that's recognizable. You know. What about the Japanese? Oh my goodness. Anybody know? Kanzeon Bosatsu. Kanzeon. Oh, so desu ne. Kanzeon Bosatsu. And now here's a factoid. If you get nothing else out of tonight, I will have given you this tonight. Anybody own a Canon camera? Only one Canon, two. Okay, Canon camera's #1 leading camera brand in the world. Wipes out Nikon. When you go to the 100 best Reuters photographs of the year, 95 of them were taken with Canon cameras. 3 of them were taken with Nikons, and the last 2 are other, you know. Canon is wiping up. How did Canon cameras get the name Canon? Go online, go to Wikipedia, and look up original Canon camera logo. It's 1,000-hand Guan Yin Bodhisattva with 1,000 hands and a flaming aura. So every time you press the shutter on a Canon camera, you're saying Kannon, 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 Kannon. 1935, it was trademarked. It's Kanzeon Bosatsu, otherwise known as Kannon Bosatsu. Told you, you can all leave now. I've done my part. That's all I had to do tonight to make it worthwhile coming. Truly, truly, if I had a screen, I would show you. It's amazing. Here's 1,000-hand Guan Yin on top of a camera brand, you know. So how interesting is that, right? Yeah, yeah. So, and then they changed the logo, and now it's just Canon, but it's Kannon. So that's the Japanese Kanzeon Bosatsu, or Kannon. The Koreans say Kannon, same. Cantonese, what is, Suzanne? Guan Yim Posat, right? Yeah, getting there. So there it is. Okay, check. That's the original Shangbiao for Canon camera, 1935. Isn't that amazing? I mean, that's really Guan Yin, right? That's a Japanese version of Guan Yin. There it is.
It was spelled differently too.
They changed it after a while, I think 10 years later or something, but that's Guan Yin, Canon. So, okay, when Guan Yin Bodhisattva comes to America, how are we going to call her? Because how you say her name is key to Guan Yin's functioning. Because her vows say, anybody who needs a hand, recite my name and I'll give you a hand, right? I'll come and help you out. That's why she has these 1,000 hands, 1,000 eyes and 1,000 ears, right? That's the idea. So you have to know how to say her name. So probably in the West, if we say, the awakened being who hears the sounds of the world, it's too late. Your car's already gone over the cliff at that point, you know. 来不及了, you know. So what do you say? You say, Guan Yin Pusa, Guan Yin Bodhisattva, probably. So we're introducing half Chinese, half Sanskrit. It's English, right? English gathers all these languages together. So now, when you recite, traditionally in the Chinese Buddhist world, that's the melody. It's an all-purpose melody. Use it for Amitabha, use it for Earth Treasury, Bodhisattva, Dizan Pusa, use it for Guan Yin. They say, interestingly, people, if you're any collector of musical lore, they say that that melody is originally a Deva melody, Tian Shang Yin Yue. And some awakened individual used his or her psychic powers and went up to the heavens and heard that melody and brought it back, they say. So, 是不是这样子？不晓得. But it's a really popular melody. And interestingly, as you chant that melody, it moves your chakras from the bottom to the top and back. Da dee da da dee 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 da dee 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 dee. That's the lowest note. Da 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 dee da da dum. Back to the start. Da dee da. Top. Da da dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da 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 dum. So it very much takes you energetically through your body at the same time. So that's the melody, and I think it works. I mean, Namo, I return to the awakened being who hears the sounds of the world. Namo Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva. Namo Guan Shi Bodhisattva. Namo Guan Shi Bodhisattva. Namo Guan Shi Bodhisattva. you're tired of that, you want to switch to the Guan Yin Bodhisattva, the 6-syllable name, you go Guan Yin Bodhisattva, 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 Namo Guan Shu Yin. What shall it be? Pusa Bodhisattva. There we go. Doesn't that work? I mean, tell me that doesn't work, right? That's okay on a banjo. Who would think, right? Gee whiz, if you hadn't come to Teance tonight, you never would have heard Guan Yin on a banjo. So, gee whiz. Yadola asked about, he said, I don't know, tongue-in-cheek, maybe, but he meant it. He said, would you please talk about emptiness? So I said, gee, that's easy. First you. We're done. Okay, see you next time. So, empty. But
You still have the cup.
I know, you still got the cup. You still have something, right? So, when I said kind of tongue-in-cheek that I've been explaining sutras since 1980, but I've never explained the sutras that specialize in emptiness, which are called Prajna Paramita sutras. Why not? Why haven't I? Well, let me put it this way. We'll do a little bit of Buddhist history. So they say that here's the prince, Siddhartha, right? His dad wanted him to be king of India. He was going along with the program until suddenly, very suddenly, he saw old age, sickness, and death. And then he saw a monk. He saw a cultivator. And he realized that he was going to get sick, get old, and die, but that was not the only story, that there was an opportunity to transcend mortality. So he said, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. I want to look birth and death right in the eye and find a way to not have to get old, get sick, and die only. There's got to be more. So the question that occurred to the Buddha, to the prince, was, is this all there is? Is this it? And the fourth messenger, we're already into this is called the Buddhist legend, right? The story. That fourth messenger was a cultivator. That's our language, meaning somebody who had already applied himself or herself to the yogas dedicated to overcoming that fundamental illness of humanity, which is called mortality, the fact that we die. Left the palace, left his horse, and apparently his horse was as hard to leave as his wife, and he was really devoted to his horse. And his wife was pregnant. So from one point of view, the prince was a deadbeat dad, walked out on his pregnant wife. People have accused me of, supporting deadbeat dads in Buddhism. Amazing. So, any case, went over the palace wall, went into the bush for 6 years, woke up, became an awakened human being. Not a god, not an avatar, but an awakened human. The first thing he did was, they say, look through his newly awakened wisdom vision and describe what he saw. Like, whoa, the universe. And that was the Avatamsaka Sutra. Huayanjing was the Buddha's description of what it's about. And he talked about the Bodhisattva path, including Guan Yin Bodhisattva. Okay, what did he do next? Put all that away because he knew nobody was going to understand it. Nobody was going to get that. But he had to just describe his experience. He decided he was going to go into nirvana. Now, goodbye. They say devas came down. Gods came down from one of the levels of the heavens, the Brahma heaven, and said, please talk. People are suffering like mad. Don't enter nirvana. He said, nobody's going to get it. This is too difficult. They aren't going to get it. It's too subtle. The true nature of reality is too subtle. People won't get it. They said, reconsider, please, for our sakes, on our behalf. People are really suffering. Don't forget your vows. So the Buddha, 21 days, they say, walked around the Bodhi tree, finally said, all right, I'll give it a try. So he went out and found 5 cultivators who were his relatives, interestingly. The first 5 monks were his relatives who his uncles and aunts had sent out after him. And boy, were they upset. When he did what? He left her oh no, and you want us to go, we want to be princes. We don't want to go do that stuff. He's out there in the woods, let him suffer, No, you got to go bring him back. He's, the son of Suddhodana. Oh man. So 5 relatives went out following him. And 3 of them apparently totally dug it. They got into asceticism and were out there doing what the prince was doing harder than he was doing it. 2 of them were kind of unhappy about it, but were willing to, they couldn't go back home without him, and he was not going to change, Well, we left him out there, He's okay, he's got a sleeping bag, he's got REI gear, he's okay. Go back out there, bring him back. So 6 years. So he found them in what's called the Deer Wilds Park, and walked up, and he was different at this point. He was glowing, and they asked him what was different. What did he know? And he talked about suffering, where it comes from, how it can end, and the path to the end of suffering. It's called the Four Noble Truths. And one of them woke up immediately, called Ajnata Kandinya. He heard it deeply and said, got it. He's called the first to wake up. And bit by bit, the other 4 did, and they started teaching, and they started glowing. And so people started to follow the Buddha. Now, did he talk about emptiness at this point? He did not. He did not. The teachings of this early period are called the agamas, Hanjing. And if you look at, for example, anybody gets a chance to find the Dhammapada, 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 much translated. Because why? It's beautiful. It's very biblical. It's a lot like the New Testament, talking about, simple analogies about cows, and talking about, honesty, and talking about the beggars and rich men and women and things like this, things that are easy to grasp, telling deep truths in simple images. So people started to follow and follow and follow, and his gathering grew. And about a year into his resolve to teach, he had 1,250 people walking with him. And the next phase of his teaching, he started these, because the people started to really practice. They started to use the Dharma, started to meditate, started to follow the precepts, change their habits, and get wiser and kinder. So the Buddha spoke what are called the Fang Guang, the Vaipulya. This includes Medicine Buddha Sutra, Restore Bodhisattva Sutra. Actually, Restore came later. He taught the Amitabha Sutra came later. There's a series of texts that he spoke at that point. All right. That went on for about 12 years. Then the meditators started to have things change in their meditation. They started to develop what's called samadhi, dingli, sanmei. And with the arising of samadhi, their bodies started to change, their minds started to change. Things didn't look the way they used to for these meditators. They had actually experienced emptiness as a state responding to their meditation. And so the Buddha said, okay, we're ready now. And he spoke prajna paramita for a period of 12 years. And there's a whole body of literature in the Tripitaka, in the Buddhist sutras, that's called prajna literature. The shortest one is called one syllable. It's said to contain all the wisdom of prajna. That's the shortest sutra, Anybody enlightened? Or was the way I said it? Anybody? Has ever seen? It's just all at the inflection. You know that wonderful joke about the joke tellers convention, the comedians convention. So the guy, his first time, he's a beginning comic, right? So he attends the comedians convention, and he comes in, and there's 200 people in a ballroom. And the guy on the stage goes, 14. And the whole audience goes, 14, did you get that? 14. He says, 38. Oh, God, that's hilarious. 38. He's really fun. 38. He's done. Another comedian gets up. The comedian goes, 7. Not a sound in the audience. So the new guy goes, why didn't you all laugh? He can't tell a joke. That's it. That's the punchline. Oh well. Okay. So nobody got. Okay. So, anyway. I'll work on it. Then there's the Heart Sutra, which is like 714 characters. That's the next, and it's the distillation. Then there's the Vajra Sutra, which is longer. There's the Ren Wang Hu Guo Boro Jing. There's the Boro Jing in 50,000 characters. There's the Moha Boro Bolo Mido Jing, 500,000 characters. So but it's all one teaching, which is called Kong Man. And of all the things the Buddha taught in the Mahayana, the Prajnaparamita is considered the most distinctive. So in China, they called Buddhism entirely Kong Man, the teaching of emptiness, the gateway of emptiness, because the Buddha radically emptied out everything. All right? Now we've been through the Avatamsaka period, the Agama period, so the Avatamsaka is everything, the universe through his new eyes. The Agamas is the smaller scope, easy to understand. There's the Vaipulya, which is the expanded teachings. That includes a whole body. There's the Prajna, and then there's the last one, which is called the Fahua Nyepan, the Nirvana and Lotus Sutra. And that was the time. It was only 6 years. But the Buddha knew his time was getting short, and he talked about the Fahua Jing. He said, all you have to do to become a Buddha is go into the monastery, raise your hand in salute, bow one time, say Namo Buddha, play Guqin, so you're covered, Alan. You're good. So anything, and you will become a Buddha. When he had that teaching, 5,000 of his followers said, wait a minute. We've been holding precepts, we've been meditating, we've been saying no to our wives and husbands, and you say that's all you have to do? They walked out, right? And they were really upset because they thought, you cheated us. And just, see, they don't have deep affinity if they were upset about that. So he, in the Lotus period, the last 6 years, he expanded all of his teachings. So to allow the great big door. So that's the whole 49 years of the Buddha's teaching. All right, so Yadola wanted to hear about that fourth period called the Prajna Paramita, which is the longest single sutra, but it's only one practice method, emptying out. And I want to say it as a verb. It's ing, emptying. It's just like, empty out your teacup. It's not the Buddhist description of the universe, because clearly, that's not empty, right? I heard that. How can that be empty? If it's empty, then go play on the railroad tracks and you won't be hurt when the train goes by. Well, not recommended. Don't say, well, the Dharma master told me. That's not what my point. My point is, it ain't empty. Clearly, it's full. And when the light is red, you better stop. When the light is green, you better go. So is the Buddha foolish? Is he like contradictions? Is he a debater? He's into the cognitive dissonance? Or what's with this emptiness stuff, right? And I teach at a university in Australia called Bond University. It's a private university, Buddhist philosophy. And not every year, but many years, there was always one joker who, in the midterms, turns in an empty blue book. It's all empty, so here on there, that's it. So okay, well, your grade is also empty, so I'll give you an F, So truly, people do. So it's empty, so why bother writing? So yeah, well, it's empty, so why bother grading you? So it's true. It's true. Uh-oh, you can't do that. Now, some of you were thinking, darn, that was my method for midterms. Anyway, so what about this emptiness thing? Okay, so I went through, there's a lot, it's the longest body of literature in all of the Buddhist canon is prajna literature. So I thought, let's pick out one text and I'll go through it and look at it in terms of emptiness. So I picked Zheng Dao Ge, Yong Jia Da Shi Zheng Dao Ge, Song of Awakening to the Tao, otherwise known as the Song of Enlightenment, which is what? It's a song. 62 verses, compiled in the Tang Dynasty by a Chan master who woke up under the sixth patriarch, the one everybody loves, Hui Neng Da Shi, kind of the grandfather of all Zen Chan that arose in the Tang Dynasty. Master Yongjia has this long song, 62 verses. I did a search. Kong, I put the Chinese character empty and searched it through. And I came up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 verses out of 62 where Kong appears. I hope you all brought your sleeping bags and flashlights. We're going to go through this tonight. And you have to realize emptiness before we keep the tea rolling. So I'm kidding about that part. So guess what? Emptiness is used in this many different ways. Almost every instance of emptiness is used in a different way in the Zheng Dao Ge. All right? Now, anybody who's read Sufi literature, right? They know about Sufism's use of emptiness. Catholicism, there are Catholic mystics who talk about emptiness. It's in the Bible. Vanity, vanity, all is vanity, the book of Revelation. So I want to run through what I came up with. There will be a quiz after. So, okay. One of the uses of emptiness is to say, through the Buddha's eyes, which appear in the Song of Enlightenment, things are impermanent. They don't last. Okay? And Kong, that word emptiness, is used to describe, as the Buddha, now awake, looks at the world, things don't last. So he calls them empty. They fall apart, right? Things don't last, including the planet itself. Just ask anybody who was in Butte County, 2 weeks ago. Suddenly one element's out of balance, and this fire just, whoo. Do you know they said at its peak on that morning, the fire took the equivalent of a football field every second. Can you imagine? You can't run. No horse can go 100 yards in a second. Imagine? That's how fast the fire was moving. So, impermanence, meaning empty, and by inference, don't cling to it. Because why? It's going to empty out right in your hand. That's one use of emptiness in the Zheng Dao Ge. What else? Emptiness as a teaching. as a doctrinal notion. Emptiness almost as a school. So a way of looking at experience. That's another distinctly different use of emptiness in Song of Awakening. So the perspective on emptiness as talked about by Buddhists, different. Kind of a little bit abstracted from the actual experience. All right? Emptiness as a verb. Empty it out. What? Your anger. Sitting there, guy next to you, snoring. Like, if he doesn't stop that, I'm going to just reach right over there and shake him. I better empty that one out. Snoring, did he stop? Oh, I didn't notice. I was deeply involved in my own meditation. Right? You empty out, right? So you're sitting there. It's now the last period in the morning before lunch, and the smell of spaghetti sauce wafts in from the kitchen, and you're in there, who's mindful of the Buddha? This is all really empty. Spaghetti for lunch. Oh, empty it. That's just the dust of scent contacting the organ of the nose and consciousness telling the difference. I've emptied it out. So emptiness as a verb appears in the Song of Enlightenment. All right? So, okay, that's 3 different kinds of emptiness. The misuse of emptiness. Master Yongjia in the Song of Enlightenment criticizes people who say, because it's all empty, cause and effect doesn't matter, I can do anything I want. There's no retribution if I kill that person, because why? It's all empty, right? Oh, that was your car that I took for a spin? Oh, empty. Don't be attached to your car, man. Whoa, nice Tesla, dude. No, it doesn't matter. It's empty. Wrong, right? So the misuse of emptiness as an excuse for misbehavior. All right? So that's interesting. Another use is emptiness as a statement of meditative skill. 正的空门. So somebody who is able to truly empty out the self. Now, use this contemplation next time you're sitting if you have an opportunity. Find the self. Is it in your teeth? Look. Is it in your hair pores? Where's the self? Is it in your heart? Well, check. Can't find it. Is it in the pain in your knees? Where is the self? Where's the Wo? That seat of your identity that makes Jerry different from Yadola. Where is the Jerry? Where's the Yadola? Where's the Helen? Where's the Shirley in that meditative experience? Really look for it. And if you're honest and you keep looking, let me know if you find it, because chances are you won't. But if you do, email me. I'll be curious. I found it. My God, I found it. It's in the blood. So, yeah. So you empty out the self. And that's a statement of meditative skill. So they say 空我, 空法, 我空法空, 二空. 2 kinds, you empty out the self. Then, once you've actually convinced yourself, you're sure that the self is not going to show up. That can lead to profound psychological aversion. That can be like a shock. Because why? We're totally invested in ourselves. Probably from the time that mom patted us in her belly, there, bow, bow, until when, you're going to have a master's degree, diploma, you have a PhD on the door, and yet when I sit there, I can't find myself anywhere. That can be disturbing. reality check, total reality check. What is real about my constructed identity? And if you can balance that, it's really liberating to realize it's all what we call a constructed self. It's a way of seeing, which, thank you.
I'm getting excited about this Cyber Monday. I hear that's the day everybody dresses up as a robot, so I'm getting my Gort costume ready. Or, wait, is that Cyborg Monday?
All by itself, my phone has deconstructed its identity. Just like that. I mean, what is real? And there's a peacock. What's real about the peacock? Ready? You all like that peacock? Where'd the peacock go? It's only that deep on the phone. So, here's another way to look at emptiness. Pick out your favorite Netflix serial. What would it be? Gossip Girl? Okay, good. Gossip Girl. You're in there, you're like involved in it. You're watching and you really hope that, she gets the guy or he gets the girl. And then you walk up to the flat panel display, step past it, and look for the story. And it's like, where did it all go? And you step back in front of the screen. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Oh no. It's no. What a bummer. Commercial. Okay, we'll wait for time to go get some. Then you come back. Where did the picture go? I was so emotionally involved in my favorite serial, and yet all you have to do is just step past the screen and you realize, wait, it was all just that deep. How strange. And then you go, all of reality is just like that flat panel. Right? Has anybody, and this is, I say this with all respect, has anybody lost someone dear to you in the last, where did they go? They were so important to us, and, so could that experience, let's come back to meditation, could that experience of looking for the self and recognizing how we're just in the habit of assuming this is real, and yet once you start poking around in there, where does the self live? This is the work of Chan meditation. You ask yourself, who? Ultimately, who's in there? 念佛是谁? And you look and you look and you look. Okay, and on one hand, it's really disturbing to realize how much we're totally invested in me as this permanent entity, and this is my good side, and you get the eyebrows just right, and I don't wear makeup, but and then if you realize you don't have to do that, what does that say to all your relationships? We're just talking about the self as an individual, but what about the people who depend upon you, whose emotional well-being requires you to be normal and solid and dependable and kind? You realize, well, it's not empty. After all, if you're a dad, my God, if you're a mom, you can't find refuge in phony emptiness. You're a mom. People depend on you. People came from you, So suddenly, it's not empty anymore. What's that about? So interesting, huh? And it's not so easy, but the experience of sitting still or even in motion, doing that investigation, really, they say, 参话头, you really look deeply into the constructed self, very helpful, because it puts some air into that often very closed box of me and mine, right? Kind of shakes it up a bit, and you don't have to take it so seriously. 不需要那么认真. Lighten up a bit, So there's that. Further, the next step is what? Empty out things. The Buddha's disciples continued to meditate, their samadhi continued to grow, and at a certain point, they applied that very same investigation into earth, air, fire, water, space around them, and realized not only is the self constructed, but the scholar's word is epistemology. How we know things is also empty. Why? The very sense organs that we use to know things cannot be grasped. My eyes are completely a set of conditions, right? So if we all closed our eyes right now, where did Teance go? Well, I was sitting here just a minute ago. That tea was really good. My tongue remembers Teance because I tasted that great tea. But close your eyes and it's like suddenly the eye stops working. But everything I know about this is Yadola, this is Alan, comes from my being able to recognize him. If I take that away, where did my knowledge go? All right, same with ears, same with tongue, same with nose, same with body, same with mind. It's all, quote, empty until it's not, and then it's back. But what about people who are deaf mutes? Right? They've never been able to have that experience of music, for example. Imagine, And what a blessing to have functioning ears. But a meditator, the Buddha's disciples said, no, don't take any of it for granted. It's empty. And yet it's not. Kong bu kong. It's empty, not empty. All right? So we're still going, right? That's emptying out the experience. How about this? Empty meaning in vain, meaningless, futile, useless. In the Song of Enlightenment, he uses the word kong to mean totally in vain. What a waste of time. It's just empty. The book of Revelations in the Bible says, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. Not vanity in front of the mirror, but meaning in vain, comes to nothing. Right? We get so worked up, we get so invested in it's got to be, this must be the one, he's Mr. Right, she's my dream mate, and it doesn't work out that way. And you go, bummer. It's in vain. Anybody read Hong Lo Meng? Dream of the Red Chamber? Right? Hong Lo Meng. Oh my goodness. The last scene in Hong Lo Meng, snowfield. And this is a Ming Dynasty novel. Cao Xuejin is the author. Wonderful. Dream of the Red Chamber. Recently, it's a great, I guess they did a good movie of it recently. Right, it's good. We go from movies back to the book. Okay, pick up the book. And there, Dai Bao Yu and Jia Bao Yu are this drama and, these wealthy families and all these expectations. And in the end, it's a puff of wind on a snowy field. Vanity. It goes to nothing. It leads that this novel is not, quote, Buddhist novel, but those themes. If you attach to it, you're going to hurt. Because it's in the end. Nothing. And man, oh man. So there's another meaning of emptiness. See, Yadola, you didn't know what you were asking for when you guys, right? So, then, okay. Now, there's a great story in the Sixth Patriarch Sutra that shows one of the ultimate uses of emptiness in the Buddha's teaching. It comes out of experience. The fifth patriarch in a place called Huangmei, Yellow Plums, decides he needs to pass on the Dharma to a new heir. He needs to find a student who's worthy. But you can't just pass on the robe and bowl to anybody. It's got to be somebody who's actually Mingxin Jianxing, seen their mind, lit up their nature. Right? So he says, I know what I'll do. Poetry contest. Poetry time. He says, I'm going to tell everybody to write a poem, and I'll judge by the poem who has seen their mind. That's how we're going to find the sixth patriarch. I'm number 5. So, okay, in his monastery, the fifth patriarch's monastery, there is one senior monk whose name is Heng Sure, right? Heng Sure Dashi. He's learned, he's senior monk, good-looking monk, knows stuff. All the other monks go, forget it, it's him. We're not even going to submit a poem. Why bother? He's the one, right? So, and the sutras is beautiful the way it takes us into the minds of this, the tension around the poetry contest. So, okay, well, there's a young man who came up from the south, and he has already heard the Diamond Sutra, Prajnaparamita teachings. He was a wood carver, a wood gatherer. He was illiterate, never had the money to go to school. He's a working guy. But his conditions, his yin with the Dharma were already ripe. So he was delivering a bundle of wood probably to the back door of a client, a customer, and he heard somebody in the house reciting the Jingang Jing, 因无所住而生其心, 因无所住而生其心. And when he heard that, immediately he woke up. 因无所住而生其心 is translated a bunch of ways. Something like, have thoughts that stop nowhere. Don't let your thoughts stick anywhere. That's pretty much 因无所住而生其心. Don't let your thoughts stop anywhere. Keep your mind fluid, just the way your eyes work, the way your ears work. Don't cling to thoughts. All right. So he immediately wakes up, goes to find the fifth patriarch. Fifth patriarch takes one look at him, says, "This is the guy. Go to the back. Pound rice. Make yourself busy." Sends him to the back, keeping an eye on. And so the word comes back to the kitchen 6 months later. There's a poetry contest. Okay, so fast forward to Master Shanxiu, who's the chosen monk, right? He's the one. He is totally upset. Why? He knows he hasn't had that experience called awakening. He hasn't zheng dao, the way our Song of Enlightenment hasn't done it yet. So he thinks, oh, everybody's waiting for my poem to come out, but what if I haven't seen my mind? Here's what I'll do. So he finds a piece of charcoal, and they've called an imperial artist, the emperor's artist, to come down to put some murals on the wall at Huangmei, Yellow Plums. And this is a big deal, have the imperial artist come down. And so, oops, covered the hole. And so Shanxiu sneaks out at night to the freshly whitewashed corridor where the imperial artist the next day is going to leave his, masterpiece. And he goes, okay, nobody's looking, nobody's looking. He goes like that. 身是菩提树，心是明镜台，时时常复视，勿使惹尘埃. The body is a Bodhi tree, the mind a mirror stand bright. At all times, wipe it clean. Let no dust alight. And he goes back. So tomorrow morning, if the fifth patriarch comes out and says, "We found him," he'll humbly step forward. Well, I wrote it. If the fifth patriarch goes, "Oh no," I'll say, "Oh no, clearly it doesn't." So that's his method. He's not going to admit. It's going to be anonymous. All right. So next morning, big buzz. Oh man! First of all, somebody messed up the fresco in the corridor. Who was it? So who messed up the new wall before the artist got there? Then they go, oh, look at this verse. Wow, that's really profound. That's really good. That's really good, isn't it? Everybody's like waiting for the Shifu to come out. So the fifth patriarch goes, oh, really good. Really good. Anybody who cultivates according to this will certainly not fall behind. Excellent. Everyone goes, well, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it was him. You know? Then he pulls Shen Shu over. He says, you haven't seen your mind. I'll give you another chance. Come back in a week and try again. Oh, Shen Shu's sweating from every pore. He's like, because it's all on him. You know, nobody else submits a poem. But everyone else thinks he's got it. Okay, so the buzz goes back to the kitchen, and the young man, the rice pounder, who's the wood gatherer, who's the future sixth patriarch, is still a layman. He's not a monk. He says, hey, could somebody take me up to the front? I'd like to look at that verse. And the sutra describes this arrogant young monk who says, huh, you barbarian, you can't even read. What's the use? Well, okay, I'll take you up. I'll read it for you, but not going to get you anywhere. So he brings him out, and he says, "Shan shi puti shu, xian shi ming jing tai, shi shi zhang bu shi, wu shi re cheng ai." What do you think of that? And the young man says, well, I got a verse. Could somebody help me write it? And I'll go, you got a verse? Ha ha, what a joke. How could you possibly have a verse? And so at this point, the young man says, you know, Buddha Dharma doesn't discriminate that way. Sometimes the deepest wisdom comes out of the clearest mind. Why would you discriminate? And go, okay, we'll write it for you. What's your verse, Rube? You know, ha, what a joke. Okay, we're ready for it. Wait, give us your verse. And he goes, Shun. Let's see, how does it go? Shun, let's see, it's Pete. No, he says, let's see, Puti ben wu shu. He says, Xin yi fei ming tai. Ban lai wu wu. He chu re chen ai. He says, the body is no Bodhi tree. The mind, no mirror stand bright. Fundamentally, there's not one thing. Where could dust alight? Everybody goes, whoa. Who is this kid? Southern barbarian. He speaks Chinese with a Texas accent, you know. Ni hao ma. Ben lai wu wu. He chu re chen ai. Y'all. So, and they're going, man, oh man, you know. So the guy writes it down, really good. Fifth patriarch comes out and goes, huh, erases it immediately. This one hasn't seen his mind either. And he erases it and goes, oh yeah, we knew that. Yeah, but no, it's no good. It's no good. And the fifth patriarch takes his staff and goes, tonk, tonk, tonk. And the young kid goes, got it. At the third watch of the night, he quietly, secretly goes into the fifth patriarch's room. The fifth patriarch says, I'm number 5, you're number 6. He transmits the Dharma to him and he says, run, they're going to be after you. Sends him off, this is the south, southern China, it's Fujian. So he puts him in a boat, sends him across the river and says, go, hide out at Hui and don't teach or your life will hang in the balance. Hide out. So, rough and ready, Tang Dynasty Buddhist world, man. So, pretty tough. The robe and bowl, if you had it, you were, you know, you could sell it, you could pretend to be the new patriarch. So that's the story, right? Now, let's look at that. The first one said, the body is a Bodhi tree, the mind a mirror stand bright. So you got a body, you got a mind, and you have, at all times, wipe it clean, let those, you got a wiper, a broom, you know, a brush or a vacuum, and something to sweep up, dust. Duality everywhere. There's self, there's others, there's body, there's mind, there's dust, there's defilement, there's purity, all based on a discriminating mind. The young man who had understood emptiness, hearing the Vajra Sutra, said what? He said, body's not a Bodhi tree, the mind is not a mirror stand. Fundamentally, there's nothing at all. Where could dust alight? Duality has been erased from his mind that has gone beyond discrimination. He sees this total unity of all 10,000 things. He realized emptiness. For him, it's not a concept, it's not a doctrine, it's not vanity, it's not any of those other 6 uses of emptiness. For him, it's his reality. Not to say he can still see a green light and a red light. He still can talk and eat and all. But he also understands that the sense organs that you observe reality with are made up of conditions. Fundamentally, they don't have a ultimate, unique identity. Everything in the world is made up of conditions. 以因缘而生, 以因缘而灭. All 10,000 things, they say, come together when conditions gather, and when those conditions are gone, they're back. Our bodies are that way. The planet itself has a lifespan. How much the more so, the pottery that made this teapot, this was earth, right? This was a tree. So this was a tree. This is earth, air, fire, and water. And you can see it if you looks carefully. You take a shower and you can see how many hair follicles go down, how many dry skin particles go down the drain. It's all made of other stuff. That's the 6 patriarchs' reality. That's the teaching of the Buddha. I can experience it in your meditation when your mind is quiet. You can see that all those things arise from the same place, bound up in language and thought. So my question to all of us would be, is there anything real beyond language and thought? And if so, how do you know? Now we're into the realm, we're at the door, the gateway towards emptiness. And I would maintain, the answer is there is a lot, maybe the best parts of life can't be described, and they're bigger than our thinking processes. Interesting, huh? Yadola, you want to respond? Is there anything real that exists beyond language and thought? How about hope? Hope springs eternal. You don't have to think about it, and yet when, I saw President Obama behave in ways that gave me hope. And, we're not going to do politics tonight, but I remember after the Sandy Hook massacre, he came out and he cried, and then he said, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this together. This is going to make us, as inconceivable as it is, we're going to be stronger. And you go, there's an adult in the room, and it's a feeling, but it's not an emotion feeling. So for example, hope, So anyway, yes, there are things, to my mind, maybe the best parts of my life are not quantifiable in language, and yet they don't deny language either. Who wants to live without poetry or song? So the Buddha's experience of emptiness, if I can talk about it, doesn't deny reality. They talk about 真空不爱妙有, 妙有不爱真空. True existence doesn't obstruct, true emptiness doesn't obstruct wonderful existence. And here's where it gets really interesting. Nature doesn't do vacuums. As soon as it's really empty, it fills up again. Right? Physics will tell you that. When it's really, really empty, it pulls everything back in. They say when you finally empty the self out, it's not lonely. Why? Flip over no self, and you find everybody. It's called Tong Ti Da Bei. Same body, great compassion. That's why I come back to the Mahayana over and over and over again. Because the goal is not to have great wisdom that empties everything out. Oh, I can empty everything out? How boring is that? How lonely. It's when you finally, truly empty the last bit of self, me and mine, what you find is you're ultimately connected to every single thing. Right? So, Connie. This experience of emptying out the self, you could think of it as flushing away phoniness, right? Are you really, Connie Long? Well, show me which part of you is really Connie Long, right? It's constructed. It's a built-up self made of what? Your clothes, your possessions, your eyes, your reflection in the mirror, your title, your driver's license. All of that is in there building up what you are. But none of it is ultimately, permanently you, right? So if you look into that, that's helpful. It's good to know. Why? It's hard to be arrogant when you know that you're just a way of looking at yourself. And you're not the same person you were when you were 3, So, and you're not going to be the same person when you're 53. So it's in the process of emptying out the self, that loneliness, it's good. You're a better employee if you're not so arrogant. You're a better partner to, your partners if you're not stuck on yourself. It also helps you get through hard times. If you can not take it so seriously. Okay, you know what? It's already, it's 9:30, and we know it's empty. None of it matters a bit. I mean, what is that? That's something that doesn't run my life. It's a helpful illusion. That's right. Or never enough of it, but it doesn't exist. Good point. That's a good point. So, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just have a really quick question. So, they can do anything.
That's a misunderstanding. And how do you frame it? The Buddha didn't speak about emptiness until his disciples had actually experienced it in their meditation. He didn't talk about it the Avatamsaka period, the Agama period, the Vaipulya period. It was years of hard practice by his disciples until he said, actually, you're going to be experiencing this. Investigate emptiness. He never, ever used it as a philosophical description of reality. He didn't. And so anybody who does, you can go, you can say, Dharma Master told me to. You haven't experienced it. If you haven't experienced it, don't pretend. Because the Buddha taught it as helpful for his meditators who had already been working on the self all that time. It was now much less solid than it was before. He taught them because they were ready. I haven't explained it since 1980. I've been explaining sutras. I have not talked about emptiness. Tonight, thank you, Yadola, for the opportunity. Because why? This is a tough one. It's not the Buddha saying, actually, that doesn't exist. Come on. Yes, it does. If we are still in duality, and we are because we're bound up in language and thought, emptiness is a theory. Okay? From the Buddha's eyes, luckily we have the Prajna Sutras, he's saying, now, there's another level of reality. It's called RD, two truths. Ultimate truth sees the oneness of all things. If that's not your state, don't pretend. So anybody who says, yeah, well, let me say, sorry, you're not, you don't have the criteria to talk about it that way. You're a phony. Sure. Say again. 道德经, Yeah, but that would be another couple weeks of conversation. That's a big one. Comparing one system, we're just like a drop of water of one system to compare it to another entire system. So here's the point. Emptiness is an internal experience for somebody whose mind is very, very quiet. But as soon as it's really empty, it's full right away. It doesn't stay empty. It's a way of seeing. All right, last point here. Y'all got a song sheet? Turn to page 4, right above Guan Yin Bodhisattva's name. Master Empty Cloud wakes up. Xu Yin Lao He Shang, our grand teacher, Grandmaster's grand teacher, our grand teacher. Master Empty Cloud, lived to be 120 years old. Went to Gaomin Si near Nanjing and was in a Chan session and had worked hard. And somebody, some tea server, had a hot kettle full of boiling water. Master Empty Cloud held out his teacup, and the server poured the hot water on his hand. He dropped the cup went ching, like that, enlightened. He woke up. Okay, immediately he wrote 2 poems. Not 1, but 2. So a true Chan monk has to write his or her enlightenment poem. So Alan, you could get ready in advance. So when it happens, you could have it right there. Make sure it rhymes, you know. So he did. He wrote beautiful poems. It was 北字普落地，相声名利利，虚空风翠也，狂心当下息. That's the first one, okay? The cup hit the floor with a ringing sound and echoed in the air. Empty space, too, broke to bits. And my mad mind stopped right there. Okay, that's the first poem. Pretty cool. All right, empty space breaking up. You think, how could empty space? Right, emptiness and you know, stability, reality are not what they were before. Second poem. 汤之手打翠杯，家破人亡雨难开。春到花香处处休，山河大地是如来。Burned my hand, busted my cup, broken for good my mind. Like my family, it's lost. People are gone. Words are hard to find. Spring is here. The flowers breathe their fragrance to the sun. Mountains, rivers, the earth itself are just the thus come one. Okay, let's look at that second verse. Okay, burned my hand, shattered my cup, broken for good my mind. Like my family, it's lost. People are gone. Words are hard to find. What is more empty? I mean, that is looking right at the void. That is despair, right? There's absolutely nothing there. Family's gone. Words don't cut it. Like empty. It's cold. It's unemotional. It doesn't care. The universe does not care about you, about me, right? That's empty. True. That's Zhen Kong. And second verse goes, immediately spring is here. The flowers breathe their fragrance to the sun. Mountains, rivers, the earth itself are just the Buddha. It's all back immediately because why? It's a gift. 上天有好生之德, right? Nature has a preference for life. Without asking for it, the bulbs are going to pop up in February. You're going to have lilies right there. You didn't see them before. They were all there in the garden all along. Pop, oh, there they come, right? What, the first one comes out? Plum blossoms, right? Anybody drive over to Berkeley Hills in February and see, you know, 梅花真的扑鼻香，不犯一次汗彻骨，梅花真的扑鼻香. If they didn't go through the bone-chilling cold of winter, how could the plum blossoms smell so sweet in spring, right? So empty it out, it's full immediately. Empty it out, it's full immediately. Empty it out, it fills all back in. Why bother clinging to emptiness? So, okay, last story, and then we'll transfer the merit. So Master Hua, Shenhua Shangren, goes down to LA for the first time. I was a brand new monk. It was 1976. And you got to hold on to your song sheets. We're going to transfer them here. So I just ordained. I was a novice monk. And we're down, Helen Wu Guoxiang, invited us down there. And so all of LA Chinatown emptied out. All of the Kung Fu Shifus came out. All of the Master Xia Jingshan came out, and all these, wannabes and teachers. And so the second day, this young guy comes in. And if this was a Gary Cooper movie, Gary Cooper was the sheriff, and here comes the young gunslinger out to see if he can outdraw the sheriff, right? This guy walks in. He's some teacher of something or other. And you can see he just kind of comes in like this. He stands there. And Shifu was sitting down, and this guy's standing. And Master Hua just sits back on the couch like this. Show me your best stuff. Show me your move. And the guy goes, if everything is empty, why bother cultivating? And if it was a Western, he would have gone, 如果一切都空了，何必修行呢? So Shifu goes, if everything's really empty, why bother asking? The guy goes, he sits down, he bows to Shifu and sits down, So the old sheriff is the fastest gun after all, So don't pretend. Don't hide behind emptiness when it's not your state. Because why? It's immediately full again. If it's really empty, it's really compassionate. If you're still clinging to the me and mine in there, you still have friends and enemies, rights and wrongs. 人我是非, that's not the real thing.
So that guy speaking
Chinese.
Chinese or English?
师父说，如果一切空了，何必问?
No, I mean talk about that guy.
Yeah.
Also Chinese?
Yeah, he was Chinese.
Mandarin?
Yeah, he said Mandarin. It was beautiful to see it. I was sitting there watching, Everybody was, when the guy asked that question, everybody's like, and the Shifu says, 如果一切真的空了，何必问? 很慈悲, perfect, just knocked it in. First page, dedication of merit. Okay, this is called 回向功德. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Yadola, for having us in. It's just great to be here. So what we do is we take today's gongde, the merit of coming together and Teance, peaceful with friends like this, and use it with a single thought and say, I transfer all of the goodness. I want to give it as a gift to, fill in the blank, with the wish that. And this is truly a Dharma door. This is Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's practice. Pushen Pusa, Huishang, Puje Huishang. The farther your mind goes out, the more benefits accrue from this. So, those of you who know, let's do it. Please make that wish. Here we go. Our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds away to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward, may all who sorrow leave their grief because our hearts are one. This world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Thank you all for coming. Please have a year full of blessings and don't be strangers at Teance.